Hi, everyone. Welcome to Steadfast Care Planning, where we plan for care to live well. I'm Kelly Augspurger, long-term care insurance specialist and your guide. With me today is Molly Good, Regional Marketing Director for Otterbein Senior Life. Molly, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly.
I'm excited that we're here today talking about continuing care retirement communities, also known as CCRCs. So Molly, can we jump right in?
Absolutely, yes. So Kelly, thank you so much again for having us on. Would love to take a moment to talk to you about what a CCRC is. So when folks are beginning to take a look at retirement communities, nursing homes, we hear the words often, it can be a very hard start because there's a lot of jargon that you hear about us. So let me share with you what a CCRC stands for. CCRC stands for Continuous Care Retirement Community. And honestly, that is a great way to encompass all of the care that's being provided. Typically, a CCRC houses independent living. This can be done in a villa, a patio home, an apartment, a cottage, or you can do independent living really anywhere, but that is what you'll most commonly see. A CCRC also houses assisted living, which is care for folks who might need a little bit of assistance with activities of daily living. Right now, you will see that there are two models that are really prevalent. You will find that there is more of a social model for a person who might be looking for just a social interaction, but can mostly care for themselves. And then there's also a medical model. So for someone who might have a condition where they need a little bit more hands-on assistance, is able to reside in an assisted living. And this care is often delivered in an apartment or a suite. Then a CCRC also houses skilled nursing care or nursing home care or rehab care. See what I said, Kelly? There's a lot of different words that talk about what we do. But typically when folks think of retirement community, they think of a nursing home. And we really want to challenge that. So if your takeaway is understanding what a CCRC is after listening to today's podcast, we've won already. But yes, rehab or skilled nursing or nursing home care is also done at a CCRC for anybody who might need a little bit of extra help after a hip replacement and then they get back home or back to their apartment on campus. Or we can also provide what's called long stay, or other folks might refer to that as long-term care, but we don't like that at Otterbine. A long stay just means that you require a high level of care or a lot of hands-on assistance, and that care can be provided for you as well at a CCRC. So I guess in 60 seconds, Kelly, anything that you need or anything that you're looking for can be provided in a CCRC setting.
Okay, so there's really a big range on the continuum of care, right, Molly? So you know, going in at the independent level, all the way to skilled nursing care, and probably, what about memory care as well, Molly?
Absolutely, yes. So it depends on the CCRC, and it depends on the company that you're looking for to either move to or provide that level of care to yourself or a loved one. Depends on whether or not they may have memory care. Now, typically, this can be delivered anywhere, depending on how the person expresses their dementia or other memory needs, or it can be provided in what's called a secure unit. So not everyone has a secure unit, but yes, this care can be provided to answer your question.
Okay, so there are lots of different levels of care that can be provided in a CCRC. When you need those different levels of care, Molly, are people then moving from that independent suite or space to a different location on campus, or are they staying in that same location?
Well, Kelly, that certainly is a large benefit to be able to graduate from one level of care or another or move along. However, when you are shopping and looking for a CCRC to meet your needs, really ask a good question about how do they manage what we call aging in place. So what you would like to see, or what I would like to see for my loved ones or for those that I happen to serve at Otterbine, is the ability to be able to care for you in the same environment for as long as possible. So for example, when you're looking at the independent living level at a CCRC, ask the question, is wellness services offered? Because if you have someone making a move in, they're able to drive, they're still going on vacations, they're still traveling, we want a person to be able to live at that home as long as possible. So asking that question about wellness services being delivered at that level of care would be able to give you the ability to live in that home for as long as possible and without barrier. That's always the goal, at least on our end at Otterbine. However, everybody does it a little bit differently. And there's not a right or wrong answer to this. It's more of a philosophy. So asking that question about aging in place is really critical when you're starting to shop around and take a look at moving to a CCRC?
I think aging in place, that's a buzz term that a lot of people are using lately, right? I'd say in the last handful of years is people want to age in place safely. So how do we best help people do that? Well, a CCRC, there is, again, a wide range of levels of care that are available. And so that could be, a good place for someone to go if they're looking for, to be accommodated in that way. So Molly, who is a good candidate for a CCRC?
Well, Kelly, anybody. As long as you're 55 and up, we have the ability to be able to care for an individual or not provide the care. It all depends on a person's lifestyle when it comes to independent living. Now, of course, there are parameters which you would need to know financially. So we can dig into that a little bit later, or we can go now if you'd like, Kelly.
Yeah. So let's talk about who is a good candidate and who's not a good candidate. And then I think, talk about the finances, and that'll, I think, make it clear.
Sure. So, of course, we would like to think about everybody being a great candidate, but it's going to vary depending on what kind of community you're looking to make the move into. Because I know a lot about Otterbine, I'm going to talk about Otterbine. However, this does not mean to say, there are great organizations that do the same thing that Otterbine does. So a great candidate to make a move to Otterbine is done under what's called an age and income qualification process. Now, if you are looking at two different kinds of CCRCs, of course, there's for-profit and there's not-for-profit. Otterbine happens to be in the not-for-profit side. So what we do is we take a look at age and income qualification for an individual, which just means that the younger you are, the more assets it's helpful to have. Now, Kelly, it's also going to be very important to determine when you're going on these tours, is there an asset surrender? Is this a life plan community where I have to put a large chunk of money down up front? All of these factors can determine whether or not you may be a good candidate. So let's talk more specifically about Otterbine again. We talk about the age and income qualification. And let's say that we have a 85-year-old who's looking to make a move to independent living. And this person happens to have $500,000 in assets from the sale of their home, from the sale of their vehicle. And also they have a long-term care insurance policy. They're likely going to qualify based on the fact that they may or may not outlive their funds. So yes, it's not a fun topic to talk about, but it is so important to know what you have and to be able to use that as leverage to get into a community of your choice. So again, at Otterbine, it's all about age and income qualification. The younger you are, the more assets you have. Again, Otterbine being nonprofit is not an asset surrender where we say, all right, Mrs. Smith, we see you have $500,000, fork it over. That's not the way it works. At Otterbine, we do 30-day leasing periods. And you'll find that that's the way that most nonprofits work. Now, when you go to a for-profit, it is going to be different. And there are great for-profits, there's great not-for-profits, and there's bad players in both as well. So it's really important to do your homework and do your research before you make a move.
Okay. Great information there. Would you say that people have to come in at the independent level? Is that right, Molly? Whether it's Otterbine or even other CCRCs, do you have to go in at the independent level? Or can you come in at a higher level of need?
That's a great question, Kelly. No, you do not have to come in at the independent living level and work your way. We often work with folks who are looking specifically for assisted living. And again, this is more of a needs base. So Kelly, how we often see this happen is we'll get a phone call from an adult child saying, hey, my mom is not thriving at home. She lives in a 3-story home. Her laundry is in the basement. Her bedroom's on the 2nd floor, and she's having trouble navigating stairs. What can we do to provide a quality of life for mom? Which is when we would say, well, why don't we move to an apartment in assisted living if mom is needing some help with those activities of daily living or has, some challenges with mobility. So to again answer your question, you can come in anywhere. Sometimes we'll see folks come in for a broken hip. They'll have a great experience with the rehab, and then they'll make a move to one of the villas or patio homes or cottages that we have on campus. So it doesn't matter how you're introduced to the community. You have multiple options to be able to work with any community from that perspective.
Interesting. Is that exclusively for Otterbine or is that across the CCRC industry?
I wouldn't say that there would be a lot of organizations who would say you have to move in at an independent living level and work your way through. Now, I will caution you, if you're looking at some communities, they might not have the availability to work with you if you are getting rehab. So if you have someone say, I live right around the corner from this amazing CCRC, you'll find there's not as much of an ability to be able to care just based on the size of a skilled nursing or rehab or long stay area or neighborhood that is at that level of care. So again, you just have to be able to know the community well. And the great first step is just going on a tour and finding out, okay, what do you have? What could fit with my lifestyle? And we would go from there.
The Steadfast Care Planning podcast is sponsored by the Certification for Long-Term Care, CLTC, an in-depth training program that gives financial advisors the education and tools they need to discuss extended care planning with their clients. Look for the CLTC designation when choosing an advisor. If you're looking to become a CLTC, enroll in their masterclass and enter Kelly in the coupon code field for $200 off. So that's a great segue, Molly, then to my next question, which is where and how do people shop for a CCRC? And what are some good questions to ask when interviewing different CCRCs?
Yes. Well, Kelly, we are getting into a exciting time for the senior living industry because we're experiencing the largest amount of growth senior living communities have ever seen in our nation. So you can bet, Kelly, that we are all gearing up to be able to meet the demand. But the best way to shop is really up to you. When I was taking a look at our data, we found out that we got the majority of the folks who are looking at us through a digital means, which is unusual. Typically, you think about word of mouth being the first option where you would look. So oftentimes somebody will say, well, I had a neighbor who moved to Otterbine or to a community and I've heard good things and I'd like to come and tour. But right now we're seeing more of that digital perspective. So a great way to start that search, Kelly, again, word of mouth is fabulous. Ask your friends, did you have a good experience? Or even going to the internet and finding out. We as an industry are working really hard to be able to give you all of the resources you need to make an educated decision before you ever pick up the phone to call us. So take a look at the website, take a look at Google reviews, take a look at all of the tools that are right here at your fingertips on your phone. You should be able to take a virtual tour. You should be able to fill out a contact form so we can give you a call. You should be able to do all of these things. So we'd certainly recommend that you take a look on the website. Things I would look for, because I have 15 years of industry experience, are the photos that are on the website of residents that live in your community. Are the tours done by team members, or is it something that was just done of one community, or there's just happens to be a floor plan? Really look, because those companies that happen to really invest in that digital platform tend to have a little bit more of a personal touch on the care that they provide. So I know that's a really broad generalization, and I'm sure that there's great organizations out there that have cheap websites, but really utilize that platform as much as you can and do as much research as you can before taking that tour.
Okay, great. And then once you are there at the tour, what are some good questions to ask, Molly? Like, what do people need to consider, when visiting CCRCs and how to make that decision?
Absolutely. So again, it's really critical that you take a look at the levels of care that can be provided at that CCRC. So if you know that you have a family history of, and this is really bleak, but if you know you have a family history of dementia, you might want to look that there are support services offered for memory loss.
Yeah.
If you find that you're looking at independent living, but you may have a Parkinson's diagnosis, take a look to make sure that that home meets ADA requirements. So in the event that someday you would need more assistance, that home is fit for you so we can support that aging in place that we were referencing earlier.
Yeah.
You want to be able to be sure that any service can be provided to you in that home. So that is a great thing to be able to look for. Ask about cost, because again, a lot of times you'll find that there are some communities that will take a large sum of money up front, but then there are some that just do rentals monthly. In independent living, ask if there is a leasing period. Some companies will say that it's 18 to 24 months that we require a financial commitment from you. I mean, who knows what could happen, Kelly? You could decide to move to Florida in the middle of that period and not be able to get your refund based on the lease agreement that you signed to.
Sure.
Kelly, I know that right now we're really talking a lot of nuts and bolts when it comes to finances. Do you have a long-term care insurance policy? I'm telling you what, when we find that we have new clients who are looking to make a move to the community, if they have a long-term care insurance policy, that really sets us up to be able to say yes, to be able to serve these individuals because there's a financial cushion there. So whatever happens, and we don't have a crystal ball, right? You have a sense of security knowing that I have the funds to be able to take care of myself.
Right. There's guarantees and predictability there, right?
100%. Yes. And we love to see that and to be able to say, oh my goodness, yes, this is going to provide coverage for you in assisted living. This gives me the ability to be able to say yes now to provide you the lifestyle that you're really looking for in independent living. Now, going to the lighter side of things, Kelly, if you are an active person or you're not active, whether you are out and traveling the world or you're a couch potato, you want to make sure that that community can meet your needs. So make sure that there are opportunities to be able able to live your best life. It's also another buzz term in the industry right now, so to speak, just to make sure that the personality of that community fits your personality, because not every fit's a great fit. And you want to make sure that you are looking for the right community for you on a personal and on a social level. Because what we have found, Kelly, is that when a person makes a move to a CCRC community, they are likely to live an average of 7 healthy years longer than a person that does not live in a CCRC. Think of that. Like, that's on average. There are people who live longer than that. So yes, it really is. So it sells itself when you come in for a tour to be able to make a move to a CCRC community or a retirement community. But again, making sure that you're planning for that, making sure that you do have that long-term care insurance policy, that your assets are set up in such a way that you are able to, your funds will outlive you. You'll have a legacy, so to speak. Making sure that all of those things are really important. Also, the food. Oh my goodness,
yes,
Kelly.
I was just going to say, what about food?
You got to make sure there's good food there. Think about that. If you're living an average of 7 healthy years longer, you want to make sure that the food is nourishing and life-giving and delicious and fun, and that there's a social and environmental aspect to that too. Yeah. That is so, so, so important. So ask for a meal with your tour. I bet they'll give you one.
Absolutely. And with that food, Molly, do you generally see that every meal is provided, or you can pick and choose? Like, I only want lunch or dinner. I can do my own breakfast. And then, there are prices associated with just 2 out of 3 meals and not all 3 meals. How does that usually work?
Sure. So Kelly, of course, when you're making a move to the community, you have to think about financially. You're paying for your rent or your lease. You're paying for that, but there are services that you can purchase on top of, and food happens to fall in that category. Now, again, this is a great question to ask, because sometimes a food will not be provided, or sometimes it will include a meal. Some Otterbine communities provide like a continental breakfast and then a full seated dinner, and some don't provide anything at all. So making sure that you are signing up for a meal plan, because you can certainly go in and purchase and do like a quick counter visit or a to-go style, or you can have a full sit down in a dining room.
Okay.
And making sure that you get a pricing list. Now, again, the nonprofits are typically going to tend to be a little bit more economical with those costs, where a for-profit might charge just a little bit more. It all depends on what you're looking for. Yes.
Sure. The Steadfast Care Planning podcast is sponsored by Amada Senior Care. Amada provides complimentary consultation with a senior care advisor to find the right care, from in-home caregiving to community care, as well as long-term care insurance claim advocacy and unique support partnerships for financial advisors to address family transitions and generational retention. To learn more, visit www.steadfastwithamada.com. Okay, great. Can we talk a little bit more about paying for the CCRC, Molly? So you said some require a lump sum. So maybe that's selling the home, converting those assets to cash in order to be able to pay for the CCRC. But can we talk about the other different plans that are available and what those look like, and financial? Like, how do people pay for CCRCs? And you did mention long-term care insurance, which we can talk about that a little bit more, but give us a little lowdown on other ways to pay for it.
Absolutely. So there are often different financial packages to be able to move to a CCRC based on your budget and based on the way that your checkbook rolls out at the end of every month. And I'm telling you, more diversity is coming, because we are serving 2 very different generations. When you think about the silent generation, they viewed a move as a CCRC to more of an investment. And I know that I'm going to be taken care of for the rest of my life, regardless of my funds. And when you're looking at boomers, this is our cruise ship, our world traveling generation. So their financial books look a little bit differently. Think of your greatest or your silent generation as being the ones who shoved the stacks of cash under the mattress. Where It's true. Yeah. And you know what? They had a lot of cash. They lived below their means. They were very financially responsible. So the payment methods were often different during that time period. At Otterbine, we have 3 to 4 based on the type of person and their individual. Now, we talked about a lump sum up front. That is an option at Otterbine, but not everybody goes for it, just because it does require the sale of a home or, offloading assets from a Roth IRA or things of that nature to be able to put down that large lump sum. Now, that's where you can put down that sum, and then you will spend down that pile of cash. There's also our most popular option. We can do a 100% refundable entry fee or a 90% refundable entry fee based on which campus or ministry offers that. So what that looks like, Kelly, is a little bit smaller lump sum, and it varies depending on the floor plan in independent living. Then there is a rebate or kickback that you'd be able to get that would really cheapen that monthly rent, makes it a little bit more affordable. So if you aren't getting, the OPERs, or you're not getting a lot of those pensions that we're kind of seeing disappear and dissipate, it takes down that monthly check that you get from Social Security and or your investments. So we try to honor that by saying, okay, here's the large lump sum of money you put down. And then we are able to, in turn, provide a credit. It's around 4 to 5%.
Okay.
So, if you're looking at, of course, talk to your financial advisor to make sure that this is the right move for your financial portfolio. But that is an option. We see a lot of people take advantage of that. And Kelly, when that person moves from their independent living to another level of care, what we do is we give back 100 or 90% of those funds based on that. So to make math really simple, let's say that Mrs. Smith puts $250,000 down on a 1-bedroom with a sunroom at Otterbine, Pemberville. And then at the time that Mrs. Smith moves to skilled nursing, we are able to say, all right, here's that $250,000 back. So all of that money goes directly back to her, or it goes to beneficiaries, depending on how the person leaves the campus. So there is that option. There's also straight rental. So if you decide, okay, it's going to be $28.50 a month to be able to rent this 1-bedroom with a, sunroom and a view of the woods, we're able just to collect that up front. So again, there's a lot of diversity and financial options. The higher up in level of care you are, the more options you have. So independent living has the most flexible of options. And kind of as you move through the continuum, there's a little less and less.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that breakdown, Molly. Really helpful. Great. And then you said for long-term care insurance, you see, people using that, and obviously CCRCs, I think in just facilities and communities in general appreciate it because it is guaranteed money from the client that they have coming in. And so that provides you guys guarantees and predictability, knowing, hey, we don't have to worry about these people running out of money because we have this stream of income, right? To be able to pay for care.
Yes, absolutely. And it's true. Having that extra financial cushion gives you the ability to say yes. And it gives you, again, that predictability to say, okay, I am, not likely going to outlive my funds, which is wonderful because it opens you up to that legacy of being able to provide for your family and loved ones. Something else I will say, Kelly, if you do not have a policy like this, there have been kind of nightmare scenarios where there will be individuals who will go to a for-profit or someone who does not have that benevolent care fund, like a nonprofit traditionally houses, where after they outlive their funds, they're dismissed and they can't live in their home. So to be able to have a long-term care insurance policy and, again, smart financial planning, it really gives you the ability for certainty, knowing I don't have to move again. I don't have to put my family in a pickle when I'm unable to decide where I'd like to move. It gives your family peace of mind. So again, it's really important to be able to provide that not only for yourself, knowing I have a level of predictability, but also for your loved ones. So they're not scrambling and doing last minute planning.
Yeah. It's really providing that peace of mind up front. And at the time of, hey, if I do run out of money, there's a backstop there. Now you said nonprofit. So I believe, did you say care fund? Is that the term that you use? Nonprofits have a care fund if someone does run out of money. Can you talk about that, Molly? What does that look like?
Sure. So again, it all depends. So I'm going to speak very specifically to Otterbine. And I have worked in nonprofit outside of Otterbine before, but we do happen to have what's called like a benevolent care fund. So in the event that someone does happen to outlive their assets while they're with us and they qualified again for that standard age and income qualification when they moved in, they're able to stay with us for the rest of their life, regardless of any financial means through any faults of their own. So that's a lot of words to say that in the event that someone outlives their assets, they can stay with us at Otterbine.
Wow. That's incredible. So that could be an additional 10 years, Molly. That could be 20 years.
Yes, it could be. It's a lot. So again, being able to have that predictability, knowing, okay, Otterbine is it. This is where I know that I can come. I'll be taken care of for the remainder of my days. And again, it's just peace of mind. Knowing that you don't have to worry, you don't have to put your family in a situation, it makes it very, very easy. Now, again, Kelly, remember that person has to qualify for that standard contract to be able to lock in that benefit.
Sure. Up front when they move into the CCRC, right?
Yes, and a long-term care insurance policy helps to be able to go
Boost
green
it.
a little bit easier.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. It does help for sure.
Okay. Super. Is that pretty typical, Molly? Like that benevolent care fund? Is that typical for other nonprofits as well to have something like that?
The two that I have worked for do that. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So,
so that's something to ask, right? That's a question to ask a nonprofit, and knowing when you're visiting these CCRCs to ask, are you for profit or are you nonprofit? And if you're nonprofit, do you have this benevolent care fund? Maybe they use a different term at another CCRC, but do you have this in place? If the time comes where I do run out of funds to be able to pay for care, can I continue to stay and receive the care that I need? So yeah, I think that's really helpful, Molly. Can you tell us about Otterbine a little bit more specifically? I know that you have more than one location, so tell us where you guys are in the country.
Yes. So we are all over the state of Ohio. We are the largest nonprofit senior living in the state. We started in 1912 in Lebanon, Ohio, and we have expanded and are continuing to expand, which is awesome. We have locations in the greater Cincinnati area, the greater Toledo area, the Columbus area, and one in Franklin, Indiana. And we keep growing, Kelly. So we're hoping to add more Otterbines to our family this year. Now, Otterbine also, again, in addition to being nonprofit and having the CCRC component, we also are the largest provider of what is called small house care. So if you hear of Otterbine in your neighborhood and it's the small house model, those are rehab, long stay care. And what we can do is provide care in a home environment where there are 5 small homes on a cul-de-sac, and we're able to deliver traditional care. When a person is in their suite, they have their own bedroom, they have a bathroom. And when they come out into the hallway, instead of going into a long hallway down to a main dining room, they go out into a living room. It is providing care in a home environment, and it's really changing the industry. It's part of what's called the greenhouse model. And I'm telling you, we're going to be hearing more and more about this care delivery moving into the future. So
that's exciting.
Yes. We are, again, just keep growing, which is wonderful, wonderful news. We want to be able to make sure that we are positioned to care for the demand that is on its way.
That is terrific, Molly. It sounds really desirable because it has the feel of a home, right? But you are able to walk down and have a meal and be with others. So you're not isolated, completely living alone. But if you want that socialization, you can go to the family room and be with others, but you don't have to. But you're also not in a great big building with 10 floors. And, for some, maybe that's not the right feel that they want. I definitely foresee more and more of this will happen in the future because I can imagine that the demand would be there. So that's exciting. That's exciting.
It is. It's great to be able to provide services that people really want.
Yeah.
It's just very life-giving for Otterbine and for all of us who are on the mission together to provide care in that aspect. So again, Kelly, keep looking for us. We're going to keep growing. It's a great, great time to be at Otterbine for sure.
Perfect. Well, Molly, any final advice on how people can plan for good health and care to live well?
Absolutely. Let me speak very specifically to CCRCs. Do your homework, do your research, ask lots of questions. The folks who are working at these communities want to make sure that this is the best possible fit for you. So the more questions you bring, the better. The more we can make sure that we're meeting your needs. Because once you have made the move, we want to make sure that you are so happy with it. So just do your homework. Take a look online, ask your family and friends, see who's advertising, all of those good things. That would be the absolute best advice I could give you.
Do your homework and plan in advance, right? Don't crisis plan like, my mom needs skilled nursing care. We got to figure this out now. That's not a terrific time to plan, right? Like really planning in advance, doing your homework, talking to your family, talking to your spouse if you're married, right? Like, what are your preferences? Where do you want to receive care? How do you want to age? What does that look like to you? Because everyone's probably going to have a different perspective on that and what that looks like. But this is, I think, given my listeners and viewers some really good information, Molly, and some good takeaways. So hopefully they've learned a lot. I appreciate your time. And Molly, can you tell us where people can find more information about Otterbine?
Absolutely. Check us out on the World Wide Web at otterbine.org. And you can check out our Find a Location page where you can find out exactly where you can find Otterbine wherever you're listening from.
Perfect. Thank you, Molly. Really appreciate your time today. Have a great day.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.